Somebody in a boardroom killed Plymouth in 2001. No farewell tour, no final statement. Just a quiet discontinuation notice, and a brand that had given America the Roadrunner, the Barracuda, and the Duster simply ceased to exist between one model year and the next. For 26 years, that decision has bothered people who understood what Plymouth actually was. Not a budget nameplate, not a volume play, but the brand that believed performance should be accessible, visceral, and unapologetically American without requiring a luxury price of entry. The 2027 Plymouth Duster 340 is the answer to 26 years of that frustration. And here at Premium Automotive Reviews, where we measure cars not by what manufacturers say about them, but by what they actually deliver in your hands and under your right foot, this one hits differently than anything we have covered in years. Before we walk through every dimension of this car, there is something about how Plymouth chose to configure the forced induction system on this engine. A decision that separates the Duster 340 from every American muscle car in its price range. That we will reach in a moment. It is the kind of engineering choice that tells you everything about what this car's team actually valued. But first, stand here and take in what 26 years of absence looks like when it finally ends. The color is called Hemi Orange, a deliberate, historically loaded choice. This is not a coincidental shade of copper or a fashionable burnt bronze. This is the specific orange that defined Plymouth's most aggressive era, reinterpreted for 2027 with a metallic depth that catches and holds light in ways the original base coat never could. The body itself is a wide, low, genuinely aggressive fastback coupe, not a pony car, not quite a muscle car in the traditional sense, but something that occupies its own territory between those two worlds. The hood is sculptured and purposeful, carrying a pronounced central power dome with a functional ram air scoop pressed into its surface, flanked by subtle venting that runs rearward toward the windscreen. The number 340 is embossed directly into the hood surface in a raised treatment, not a graphic, not a badge, part of the body itself. From the front, the face is commanding in a way that requires a moment to fully process. The wide octagonal grille opening carries a fine vertical bar pattern in polished chrome, with the Plymouth sailing ship diamond emblem centered at its apex. The headlamp clusters flank the grille in angular housings that push outward and forward, their LED signatures forming sharp, aggressive triangular patterns that communicate intent before the engine has made a single sound. The lower front fascia carries carbon fiber canards on each side, functional, positioned low enough to generate actual downforce at speed, and a full-width carbon splitter that sits perhaps 2 inches above the pavement. This car does not just look low, it is low. The entire body crouches over 21-inch forged wheels with a multi-spoke pattern in gunmetal finish, large red-painted brake calipers visible through each spoke, and staggered tires that fill the dramatically flared wheel arches completely. The flanks carry a graphic approach worthy of the nameplate's heritage. Duster 340 script appears on the front quarter panels in a period-correct font treatment. Confident without being retro, recognizable to anyone who knows the original without being a costume. The roofline flows from the A-pillar in a clean fastback arc, the carbon fiber roof panel sitting flush and dark against the orange bodywork. At the rear, the full-width LED taillight bar runs from corner to corner in a single connected element, the Plymouth name spelled in individual illuminated letters across the deck lid above the Duster 340 designation below it. The rear diffuser is carbon, deep and aggressively finned, with 4 square-tipped exhaust outlets arranged in a 2+2 configuration at the outer edges. A large carbon rear wing rises from the deck lid on adjustable end plates, not a subtle lip, not a vestigial decoration, an actual wing carrying actual intent. Open the driver's door and the sill plate greets you immediately, brushed aluminum etched with Plymouth Duster 340 in clean, precise typography. Every time you enter this car, you step over that plate. The seat receives you with a combination of orange and black leather, the colors separated by contrast stitching that matches the exterior exactly, and the bolsters hold firmly at the hip and shoulder. The Plymouth sailing ship emblem is embossed into the headrest leather, subtle enough that you feel it before you see it. The dashboard sweeps wide in a design that clearly draws from late 1960s Plymouth proportions, curved, wide, visually simple, while the materials are entirely contemporary. Carbon fiber panels run across the dashboard face, orange accent lighting traces the door panel lower edges, and the center stack carries a portrait format touchscreen surrounded by physical controls that you can operate without looking away from the road. The steering wheel is thick, flat-bottomed, trimmed in black leather, with orange contrast stitching and carbon fiber inserts at the 9 and 3 positions. In your hands, it carries a weight and diameter that feels muscular without being imprecise. The instrument cluster reads in clear, large-format analog dials with a digital information panel between them. The center console carries a traditional shifter, an 8-speed automatic with a manual gate and paddle shifters mounted behind the wheel. The cabin scent at this moment is that specific combination of new leather, fresh carbon, and something faintly mechanical that never fully leaves a performance car's interior. There is real silence when the doors close. The acoustic treatment in this body is serious. The outside world does not disappear entirely, but it becomes background rather than foreground. In track mode, that calculus shifts, and the exhaust note is allowed into the cabin deliberately. But in comfort, the Duster 340 is genuinely refined over long distances. Now, the engineering decision. Plymouth chose to equip the Duster 340 with a twin-turbocharged 6.4-liter V8, a displacement figure chosen specifically to honor the original 340's cubic inch heritage translated into liters. Internally projected at approximately 840 horsepower and 780 pound-feet of torque. The controversial element is how the twin-turbo system was configured. Rather than the conventional parallel twin-turbo arrangement, where both turbines spool simultaneously, Plymouth's engineering team specified a sequential twin-turbo system, smaller primary turbo for low RPM response, larger secondary unit coming fully online above 4,000 mem. The result is a power delivery curve that feels nothing like a traditional twin-turbo V8. Below 3,000 RPM, the car pulls with confident, authoritative force. Above 4,000 RPM, when the secondary turbine reaches full pressure, the acceleration genuinely changes character, the force arriving in a second surge that demands immediate attention and respect. Some engineers on the program reportedly pushed for a conventional parallel setup for its smoother, more predictable torque delivery. Plymouth chose the sequential system specifically because it creates a driving experience with more personality, more drama, and a power character that rewards driver engagement rather than simply measuring outputs at a flat line. Close your eyes. The start button press brings the 6.4-liter twin-turbo V8 to life with a low, authoritative crack that settles almost immediately into a heavy, dense idle. At rest, the engine breathes with a slow, muscular pulse. You feel it more than hear it inside the cabin. A low-frequency presence that communicates mass and displacement. Blip the throttle and the primary turbo loads quickly, the exhaust bark sharpening with a directness that belies the engine's size. On a steady pull from a stoplight in sport mode, the sound below 3,000 RPM is a deep, structured V8 roar, full and round. At 4,000 RPM, the secondary turbo pressurizes fully and the sound changes. Sharper, more urgent, the exhaust note climbing a register as the power multiplies. The 8-speed transmission snaps upward under hard acceleration with a decisive physical crack from each shift, the revs dropping and climbing again immediately. At full throttle between 5,000 and 6,500 RPM, the sound filling the cabin is a continuous layered wall of V8 noise, deep at its foundation, sharp at its edges, a sound that physically registers in your sternum at the right volume level. In motion, the Duster 340 establishes its character immediately. The steering is weighted and responsive, not nervous, not artificially light, a rack calibrated for a car with genuine mass and genuine power. The suspension is adaptive, and in its default setting, it finds a balance between road feel and comfort that works remarkably well for everyday use. On broken pavement, the body absorbs roughness without losing composure. In sport, the chassis firms noticeably, and the car communicates road texture through the seat and the wheel with an immediacy that rewards attention. The throttle below 4,000 for RPM is confident and linear, manageable, predictable, something you can use fully in traffic without incident. Above 4,000 RPM, the secondary turbo's arrival requires genuine respect. The rear wheels receive that additional torque load through a limited slip differential that manages traction with intelligence, but in wet conditions or on cold tires, the Duster 340's 840 horsepower is not something to treat casually. That is an honest limitation and a real one. This car will punish inattention. The braking hardware matches the power. Large cross-drilled rotors behind those forged wheels provide stopping power that is immediate, consistent, and deeply confidence-inspiring. The pedal feel is firm and progressive. Initial bite strong, modulation easy across the full travel. The seat holds through lateral load with a grip that builds trust across the first 10 minutes of spirited driving and never loses it. This car belongs on a long desert highway at dusk. The sun low and orange, the road ruler flat and endless, the secondary turbo singing at full voice. somewhere around 80 miles per hour, while the exhaust note drifts back into the air behind you. That is where the Plymouth Duster 340 makes complete emotional sense. Wide open, loud, fast, and absolutely alive. Estimated pricing is expected to range from $72,000 to $84,000 depending on specification. For that, you are not simply buying a performance coupe. You are buying the return of a brand that deserved a better ending than it received in 2001, and a car that makes the argument for that return more convincingly than any press release ever could. The value is not in the specification sheet. It is in the feeling of stepping over that Plymouth Duster 340 sill plate and knowing that something important came back. The Duster 340 occupies a position in the automotive landscape with almost no true direct competitor. It is too powerful and too focused to be called a pony car, too culturally specific to be compared to European performance coupes, and too emotionally loaded to be evaluated purely on performance metrics. It is a modern muscle icon carrying the full weight of a resurrected American legacy, and it earns that description through engineering and execution rather than nostalgia alone. The person this car was built for carries a specific kind of frustration. They remember when American performance meant something beyond displacement figures and quarter-mile times. They are someone who believes that a car should have a personality, not just performance, and that the personality should be earned through real engineering decisions rather than marketing language. They appreciate the sequential twin-turbo system not despite its complexity, but because of what that complexity delivers at 4,500 rpm on an open road. They are not interested in automotive appliances. They want something that makes them feel something every single time they start the engine. Before we close, the question this car raises that is genuinely worth debating. Plymouth was killed as a brand in 2001, and the Duster 340 makes a compelling case for its revival. But should Plymouth return as a full standalone brand with a complete lineup? Or does a single halo model like this one actually serve the legacy better by keeping it rare and focused? Both positions have real merit. Drop your answer below, and if conversations like this one are why you're here, make sure you subscribe, because we are just getting started with what 2027 has to offer. The 2027 Plymouth Duster 340 doesn't just revive a nameplate. It reminds an entire generation what it felt like to believe in American muscle without reservation.